Hey y'all, hey y'all, hey y'all, what's up? So I cannot even begin to tell you how elated I am that this is episode number 31 of the full set. I am here. I'm not even sure at this point if I could ever speak to you and say that I'm with my esteemed colleague. But ma'am, I'm trying not to cry. I am here with the most beautiful, the most bodacious, Daizy Latifah. How are you today?
I'm doing well. I'm doing really well. Thank you for
You look
asking.
so wholesome. You look so wholesome. You look wholesome. You came here looking wholesome.
This Rona got me eating good, well fed, well sexed, well loved.
Yes.
Finally, a bitch getting some rest. So thank you. Thank you so much.
You came through dripping. You understand what I'm saying? Like as soon as I'm gonna tell you, the flyer maker and me, we have an agreement, right? She understands that I'm problematic when it comes to my timing. And she came through with that flyer. As soon as she sent it to me, I was like, I already know. Even if I didn't know what we was going to talk about, that this was going to be the conversation the ancestors meant for us to have. That flyer, we got to give it up to Jay Warwick, who's Trash Kid on IG. So that flyer was beautiful.
I really give it up to graphic designers. That shit is not easy. That
I
takes a
tried to
lot of
do one and it took me 10 days. So if y'all don't know, y'all about to find out. It's so funny. Like I was trying to tell people like why I was so excited about you coming and no one understood me. And so I wanted to bring you to the demographic of people who don't know you yet. Like, and because as soon as I told your following, they lost their minds. Like, you know what I'm saying? They was like, if they never said hallelujah in their life, it came out. There was a lot of asheos that came out. And I just want to say, I'm so happy you're here. I'm gonna get over myself. So I wanted to introduce you. Daizy, you are a conjure woman, which we're gonna get into, a root doctor, a diviner, a reader, an astrologer, and a CCHT in LA. Listen, who had the white claw, me or you? Okay, that's all I'm trying to say.
Ooh, oh my. Put me on Front Street like that already? Let's get into it.
All right. So something you had said on you have a website, it's theafromystic.com. You said let us commune with our ancestors, drink some tea, pull some cards, and heal some shit. And that is like the quote that I'm gonna use for tonight. And I also want to let people know, I don't know if you knew this or not, but I bought mad product from you like 2 weeks ago. Listen, I
I
forgot. I
saw.
was drunk when I did it. I put 15 in at first. I was like, we're gonna have to scale it back. We're gonna have to scale it back. We're gonna have to scale it back.
Yeah.
But tonight, with tonight's broadcast, we will look through the comments and we will assign numbers through a number generator. And 5 lucky viewers will be entered to win a bottle of your infamous Eighth House Earl. And then people don't know, so we'll talk about your website and the things that you sell, so that way people can, follow you. And something else I wanted to talk about today is your Bleach Fund, and we're gonna get into you coining the term Bleach and like how people need to put some respect on your name. And so the Bleach Fund, or the Black Witch Fund, is a permanent Pan-African philanthropic fund created in 2016 to assist low-income Black families, especially Black women head of households, with securing life's basic necessities, which is rent, food, water, utilities, and transportation. So the recipients of this fund are predominantly Black women and practitioners of African Afro-Diasporic spiritual systems. Through your private contributions and collective fundraising, the Bleach Fund has been able to impact the lives of Black families in the US, the Caribbean, and continental Africa. And that link is there. It's about to be the pinned comment if y'all let me mind my business for a second. And I hope that y'all contribute heavily because Daizy is about her business. Daizy, welcome to the full set. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. This is beautiful. It's an honor to be here.
It's an honor. I can't deal. I can't deal. So I want you to tell me something. Like, what is a conjure woman? Like, that's the first thing I come across when I think of you. You have this very powerful photo of this really large, I don't know if it's a mortar and pestle. I don't know if it's a broomstick. I don't know if it's a baseball bat, but it looks indigenous as all hell. And it looked like you mean business when you got that thing in your hand.
Well, yes, it is a pestle and mortar.
I knew it.
You know, the story behind that pestle and mortar is a beautiful one. But basically, the community rallied together to help me purchase this pestle and mortar from an African woman owned business in Ghana. And they shipped it out to me, and I've been able to use it to make medicine, spiritual medicines, and some of that eighth house oil you're going to be receiving in the mail very soon. So, you know, it's been a blessing, but it's one of my favorite tools. But to answer your question, you know, the Conjure Woman, a lot of people will have a lot of different responses, a lot of different opinions about what that is. But to me, a conjure woman, in the context that I'm speaking of it, is
because we only interested in what you got to say.
Okay, all right. Is a practitioner of an African or Afro-Diasporic religious tradition who uses their, I mean, if we're talking gender specific, if she uses her knowledge and connection with the ancestral spirits that guide her to create lasting change within the community. You can be a conjure woman and you can work for yourself, but when I'm speaking of a conjure woman in the context that I'm speaking of, I'm talking about somebody who is dedicating their self to the healing and upliftment of the community that supports them. Somebody who understands that they're an ancient person who are in the now, who are planning on making sure that the generations of the future are taken care of.
Right.
So, and who uses ritual in many, many ways to make sure that their ancestors, themselves, and the future, their generations, are taken care of.
Thank you for that. I really feel like that for me is a very strong base hold. That foothold is important for how the rest of this conversation is going to go. When you say that you're a diviner and a reader, like, what does that mean to people who are unfamiliar? You know, we talk a lot about movies that depict conjure and also hoodoo, and sometimes even voodoo. Like, a lot of the stuff that you see is like sort of diabolical, right? First of all, why are we seen as like something that isn't a beautiful thing? Like, why does it seem like people put like, oh, this is evil, you doing this, you know, you with your mortar and pestle, minding your business, drinking your water, moisturizing, and the waters of Lake Minnetonka? Why do people see that as why do people see that as inherently, you know, other than what we've been used to?
I mean, it really just boils down to a lack of understanding about, I mean, if we're talking about Black people, it boils down to a lack of understanding about who you are, what your history is, and the power that your ancestors had. It boils down to the illusion of white supremacy, right?
The illusion. Come on, baby.
It's a lie. So we say white supremacy a lot. And I understand that now we have this lingo, these terms to describe what it is that we're going through. But as a hypnotherapist, I've learned a lot about how we use words and how it's important for us to really be clear about the words we use to describe things sometimes, you know. And white supremacy in and of itself, that statement implies that in some ways, for some people, implies that white is supreme. White supremacy, like, it's inherent. It implies an inherent. That's not the case.
And words are important in what you do.
For sure. For sure. Words are important to what everybody does. But white supremacy is an illusion. It's a lie.
Right.
It has been implanted. It's like a virus implanted into the mind. It doesn't really exist. So I like to say the illusion of white supremacy, which is a term I learned from an elder.
Come
But
on, elders.
you can use whatever term you just really want to qualify that white is not supreme. We're talking about a lie here. We're talking about an implantation. We're talking about a program that's been put into your mind to believe. So we believe that African spiritual traditions are what term did you use?
What term did I use?
Mm-hmm. We believe that a lot of people believe that African spiritual traditions are evil or
right. And that, don't you think that has to do with anti-blackness? Like, niggas just don't want it to be niggas. Like, they don't.
It is absolutely, has everything to do with anti-blackness. It's one of the foundations of anti-blackness. You have to demonize a person's understanding of themselves and their ancestors and their ancestral deities before you demonize the person. So of course there has to be a sense of diabolicalness when it pertains. Right. When it pertains to African people, like doing the things that free themselves, you have to make it evil. So there is absolutely no truth in that. I really implore Black people, all Black people, to do some historical and spiritual investigation into what it was that their ancestors were doing before Christianity. That would help you to understand the context you live in right now, and to put it simply, why Christianity is not a big enough container to hold all that a Black person is.
Come on, talk about it. Because I have always wondered, as someone who inherently started out my organizing as half Hotep, I wonder, why is it that it's so easy for us to find an entry point into being a Hotep? And I don't mean it in the negative connotation. I mean it in the purest sense that people can come into their understanding and their knowledge of, John Henry Clark, or we all, came from Africa, and stop focusing on where the boat dropped you off. I'm Jamaican, I'm Haitian, I'm Caribbean, I'm this, I'm that, I'm Dominican, I'm the, and focus on where the boat picked you up from, right? So people at a baseline, Black folks, I think the majority of us understand that. But what is the disconnect you feel that like stops people? Like Thaddeus Miles just shared, his mom used to always say, don't mess with no woman who's into root, she'll have you all messed up. So inherently we know about it. We know women in our family and non-men in our family have historically been those people that you go to when Jesus wasn't enough. You understand what I'm saying to you? I said it. You ain't had to say it. I said it. And so Ashe. And so what I'm saying to you is like, why do you like, I just want us to be able to make the connect, because we're so disconnected from who we truly are. We can focus on Heru and all of these Egyptian gods and focus on that. But if that is the widest center, like, how come we can't focus on Nigeria or Mali or, Congo, like all of these countries and their deep rooted sentiments that we are one with nature, and that these gods are not our gods. Sorry, I get emotional.
No, I'm here for it. I'm here for it. I know that beautiful baby child you have is named Egypt. So there is.
Everybody got mad at me because I told you I'm half Hotep. They was like, why didn't you name them Kemet? I was like, I wasn't interested.
You have the right to name your baby whatever it is.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think that, first of all, I think that we're approaching some sort of critical mass. I think people are interested in learning more. I think people have access to more information that provides them with the sense of knowing. It confirms their sense of knowing that they've already had inside of themselves. So people, although a lot of the discourse does surround around Kemet, there are people from the Ashanti clan in Ghana who acknowledge, yeah, we came from East Africa. We came from Kemet and Kush, so there's no harsh separation between the two. I think that white influence in historical literature and education has made us believe that there is a difference. But if we are um, acknowledging our West African nature connected roots, we're acknowledging our East African nature connected roots. We're acknowledging our Southern African roots. We're acknowledging our diasporic
Yes,
roots.
I apologize. I want to clarify something. I did not mean to say that Egypt inherently was white. I'm saying that, yes, it has been,
I didn't
like,
take
if you look at, okay, no, I just want to make sure, because I heard my own question back in my head, and I was like, boo, that's not what you meant to convey. So thank you. One of the questions that was asked was something that you and I had talked off camera. When or how did you start coming into your power or ashe and hoodoo, and what was that process? I don't think you have to answer the question of what that process was, but I would like to know was there a calling on your life?
Yes, there was a calling on my life.
No, a lot of stuff is personal and private. And so I'm saying it so that the people who are listening can also understand what your hesitation may be. I just want to offer it up so that way you ain't got to be the person to say it. I love you so much.
Oh, I love you too. Well, you know, it's very, very hard to have a conversation and pinpoint like an exact moment where the spirits appeared to me. There was an apparition and it said, "You gonna be the one," you know?
Right.
But like a lot of other African people in America, African Americans, as we call ourselves today, Africans in America, like I like to call ourselves, these African retentions have existed in our family units since the beginning of our consciousness, you know, as people in the now. Like it never really left. It never really left. So it's very difficult for me to say, how did I know? How did I cultivate my ashe? To a certain extent, there was just an understanding of the depth of my personhood. Like I know why Jesus never took.
All right, Seinfeld. You remember that Seinfeld episode where George Costanza's like, I took a shower and it didn't take. Said white Jesus didn't take?
It didn't take. You know, many of us try and it doesn't take. And that was my first indication, you know, seeing white Jesus as a cartoon character or seeing white Jesus as the character that I had seen in the, you know, the back of these certain published Bibles, that did not resonate with my experience of myself. White Jesus, you know, I was having a conversation with a Isheshe priestess, and she was like, you know, we grew up in the house with Black Jesus. And she's like, white Jesus always looks so frail. And I'm like, yeah, he looks so skinny and frail. She was like, she gonna laugh when she sees it. But she was like, yeah, you need a Jesus that's gonna be like, I'm your savior, nigga. I'm your savior.
Not someone that looks like Joe Exotic's older brother, right?
Ooh.
I said that on the TV.
Ooh.
This is gonna be a very interesting show.
That's what the fuck I'm talking about.
Ma'am.
And it never took. And okay. that not taking gave space for me to allow a broader, unrestricted understanding of spirituality to permeate. And anybody who's watching right now, who's watching with the intention of understanding and learning, has probably had a similar experience in some way, shape, or form. So there was never one moment. I do know that the Black church that I attended was very hoodoo. I'll say that.
And can you explain? Can you explain that? Because I feel like there's, I don't know how to pronounce the word, but I read it so much. It sounds like syncretism. What is it? What is it?
Syncretization. Yeah.
Okay. Yes. I feel like I know what that is because I grew up baptized Roman Catholic. You know, my mother is half Mexican and everybody else is Black, but I grew up raised Roman Catholic. And then my mom, like, kind of fled that. I think my mom felt like the Jesus didn't take, like, you know, and so we was everything. I was Methodist for 2 months. I mean, we was all over the place. And when you say that there wasn't a pinpoint or a moment, did you ever, and be honest, did you ever run from your calling?
Whew, I tried. I definitely tried. There
You
was a
preaching to a lot of people right now is all I'm saying to you.
there was a moment when I was about 10, 11 years old, and my bougie auntie, because I do have one of those,
Of
she
course.
invited
Hi,
me to
Auntie
her
Latifah.
hey, Auntie Sharon, with a Y, because you're special. She invited me to one of her multicultural churches, right? And in that, I
Ooh,
was used
child.
to a very country, old Negro spiritual hymns,
Right.
dancing around in a circle around the altar type of church. And she invited me to her multicultural church because she was moving up in life. And because you move up, you got to go to this
Right.
white
You have to expand your church procurement.
church. And she took me to, there's this Halloween. Halloween is my favorite holiday in the Western world. And she took me to like a Halloween special, right? And they had a play, and the play was
Churches be always having a play, don't they?
the play was about heaven and hell. And it was
Mm,
like a series of individual experiences that, like, you know, it was like 10 people, and the scene was them at their when they would die, right? So they got in a car crash or they died of a sickness, and it was about that intermediate period between heaven and hell, and them being judged for how they had
right.
lived their lives. And if they hadn't lived their lives in accordance to exactly what the white Jesus that they later brought out had said you should, they were sent to hell. And I realized now that that was propaganda. I realized now that that was spiritual attack. I realized now that that
Mm,
was spiritual trauma. And
right.
but I didn't know that at that time. So I went home and I started praying, and the shit still did not take. It didn't take for me. So I forgot what your question was.
My question was, did you run from your gifts?
That was the last attempt at me running,
Okay.
was when I
Trying to
saw
like be in the church,
and
right?
they tried to put the fear of hell inside of me, and it did not work.
And that's traumatic, you know, because if you think about Christianity, I think about I don't know if you ever heard of this, it's not important anymore, but Brownsville, um, in Pensacola, Florida, was this huge like mega church. And it wasn't mega before supposedly the Spirit of God touched them, right? And I happened to be a little 9-year-old child at the Brownsville Assemblies of God church. And it went viral. It went viral before the internet even was here. And people from all over the world were coming to this church to get blessed, right? And, you know, there was a point where I thought like that was my calling because I was speaking in tongues. But the reason why I even say that to you is because Christians don't understand how much it's masked, right? Like the tools that they think that they have is actually very spiritual and very connected to, I feel, and I'm just going to say it, to the slaves that they enslaved. I mean, to the Black Africans that they brought over here. That's how I feel. Because there's no way that you can have this much of a connection to a supernatural force without magic, without the knowing, without the blood of Jesus, without, you know, where did all that shit come from? They wasn't talking about no blood of Jesus before 1500. Like, you know what I'm saying? Don't start talking about the King James Bible. So, um, ma'am, why are we together right now?
You
So
know, I feel you.
they
I
just
just,
don't like, you know,
yeah, yeah. A lot of us, to be honest, I've had conversations with people about why they continue to believe the white religious myth. And it really boils down to a lack of understanding about the history. There's a man and his uh, daughter by the name of Tony Browder and Atlantis Browder, who do really, 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 really good historical based not necessarily religious, based, but historical based conversations about the Nile Valley origins of Christianity. And if you watch one of those lectures, sometimes you need to hear things in your logical brain for them
Right.
to make sense to your spiritual self, right?
Because
So
if
if you
niggas can watch Hidden Colors, they can listen to this shit. Okay.
oh my goodness, so I believe Tony, well, we'll leave that. But him and his daughter provide these lectures about the actual history of Christianity as we know it and how many morphings and changings it has had over the last 2,000, 3,000 years. So a lot of it comes from people not understanding the history and also just receiving what you've been told. Sometimes it's easy to just kind of like hear what your grandmother or your mother has told you about who you are as a spiritual person, and it makes sense that you would receive what they have to tell you. But you got to realize we're living in a world where everybody falsely believes that whiteness is the truth, and white history and white knowledge is the truth, and that is irrevocably untrue. So you've got to get behind the curtain and do a little bit more research, and it will give you the strength and the understanding to know, like, this is not what it is.
You said you got to get behind the curtain. So basically, what Daizy is saying, y'all, is that we have to be the Wizard of Oz. Is all I'm saying.
Oh,
Who is that man behind the curtain? And I really like how you posited that we should interrogate, like with our logical brain. Logical. Like
yeah.
just, and I think of even the stories that are told in Christianity that aren't seen as mysticism. No one, like everyone is teaching their children about how Jonah fucking went on a diet and was swallowed in the belly of a whale, and niggas was bushes and on flames, and niggas is fighting with angels, and like, you know what I'm saying, like no one just, like no one feels no type of way, no spiritual connectedness. Like you don't weep because you think about the magic that's in the Bible, supposedly. Come on now, that's stolen from our stories. Like, please, 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 please. Can we go on to a different subject?
Absolutely.
Because I was about to get mad all over again. Just mad at the years that I spent just belonging to something else, when like really I could have been honing my own gifts and my own talents, like in my own self, like, so Christianity made me feel like I didn't belong to myself. So thank you for
Ooh,
letting me get that out.
yeah.
Oh, baby. So something that was asked from KD, one of my interns, and shout out to both of my interns, beautiful Black women doing their thing, really coming through and helping me, and I just love them to death. Um, what have you learned in your practice? Like, what have you learned about yourself? What have you learned about people? Like, what is like the biggest takeaway? Because you said that being a conjure woman, if I don't want to put words in your mouth, so I'm just recalling what you said. Being a conjure woman is about knowing that you have this, but it's not for you, even though I disagree with you. I think it is for you a little bit.
It's
And
for
you're
you too, for
giving,
sure.
okay, all right.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
giving your gifts to the community. You're I think a lot of us are that, but like you specifically have spent the time. You have put in the years and the work and the labor. And like I would ask you, like, what's the biggest thing you've learned through your journey thus far? And your lipstick looks amazing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. The biggest thing that I've learned so far. That's one hell of a question. That's one hell of a
Well, this is
question.
my job. This is my job.
To be the to ask the questions, the important, pertinent questions. I'm Didi Delgado, and we ask them.
What if my friend Ada calls me Shaniqua Walters? She's like, this is 2020.
I love it. I'm gonna call you that from here on out.
What?
Yes,
She's in
Shaniqua.
the kitchen.
The biggest lesson, you know, Ooh, I feel like it might have something. I feel like part of the biggest lesson, I can't say I can say
Okay.
part of, a big part of
Part
the
of.
lesson I've learned through the work is that it's important to remember your interconnectedness
Mm.
to your community and to the all that exists, to nature. You know, no human is an island. No
What?
human
You
is
gave us a word? Okay.
you know you to a certain extent, to whatever extent that is, but you have a deep connection to the people who raised you, the people who bore you, the people who are in your community, in your circle now, the expanded community. You are never on your own. This life is about experiencing the connectedness, the interconnectedness with nature, the earth, our first mother, if you want to think about it that way, with the cosmos.
Right.
You're never on your own, and that understanding has helped me to deal with loneliness, senses of isolation, the idea that the Western idea that we are all only individual beings,
And that's
that
some
has
white
helped
shit,
me
ain't it?
straight
Well,
up.
I
It
mean, you didn't have to
is.
say
It
it.
is.
It
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, yeah. But we experience that because we're in a westernized world, They teach us this from when we were very young and we adopt it. But the African traditional religion understanding is that you could never be. You could never be alone. And that
Mm.
has helped a lot in just my dealings as a human being on this earth. I hope
I
that answers
appreciate
the
that.
question.
So, no, I feel like you did the best you could. I feel like that's all we can ask for you. That's all we can ask from you. That's all I want to know. I told you this off camera. I just wanted to spend time at like your feet. Like, not saying that you are yourself are a deity, but like this is the dream that Prince spoke about, bathing in the waters of Lake Minnetonka. Like, I'm sitting with you. We are sitting with you and just experiencing you as a whole human. I think a lot of times people look at you and want your labor. They want your time. They want you to answer questions. They want you to be like, da 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 da. And like, you're giving us a gift. And you said the answer to my question about like, what's the biggest thing you learned? You said that a part of it is like having to deal with your own interconnectedness with everything. If that ain't a word, I feel like we can end the podcast right now. It's time to go home.
Please don't. I want to talk to you some more.
Oh my goodness. So, okay, I'm emotional. I really am because this is helping me. This is bomb. This is Luana Morales calls it medicine and honey. And I think about she's so nice. This is the nicest person I know. Is that my weed? Oh, this is tissues for my tears. Okay, thank you. I hope y'all know I smoke. Okay. All right, thank you. Try not to ruin my makeup. All right. Oh, Lord. Okay. So what I wanted to ask you next is there are a lot of different beliefs in ATRs, which I know now to be African traditional religions. I stumbled across these in 2015 and fought it. Like I was like, no, it's not where I'm supposed to be. And even my partner is like, I mean, I believe in mysticism and I believe in astrology and so I want to get into that with you. Why is it okay? And sometimes even we won't mention the religion, but even some people believe you can't even like deal with nature. They want to save the dolphins and save the whales, but they don't want to call upon the stars and see the charts, right? And see how we align and see what it means in the future or use tools because astrology isn't the only one, you know that. But why do you think that there's such a disconnect with nature and with us? Like, why are we so disconnected?
Mm, well, um, well, first I'm going to say that that's by design. It's not by accident. It's not by accident that there's this huge disconnect between us
Right.
seeing the deity and the power in nature. Um, there were actual political meetings that were had in certain eras of human history that helped rulers figure out how to make sure there was a disconnect between people understanding themselves as part of nature and people understanding themselves as pining beings of sin. That was the thing. I really want to, like, I can't express enough. I can't, like, I really, it's very difficult for me to be like, to not explain that this is
No.
by design. There, people sat in a room and said, how are we gonna separate these people from their understandings of themselves
Mm.
and themselves as descendants of?
How are we separating from themselves? Geesh.
That's why. That's why. Um, Again, calling back to the work that has been done for many years by Tony Browder and people, Atlantis Browder, and people of that ilk, historians. It's not an accident. It's not
Right.
woo woo. Ain't nobody just what, let's create a new religion. No, there was a system that was designed to make sure that for the next multiple eons, you did not feel close to nature. You felt close to Jesus, and if as long as they were close to Jesus, you were in their control. It just is what it is. You know what I'm saying? Um, that's why. That's why. But the beautiful thing about being, especially an African person in this
Come on
time,
now.
an African American,
Yes, come
a
on now.
Jamaican, a Belizean, or whatever you want to call yourself that is Black, the beautiful thing about that is
I
that
think
you
you should go into
always
trap music. You would be amazing at it.
never heard that before, but I receive it. Um, the beautiful thing about it is that within your DNA, your ancestors are reminding you of what the truth is at all times and all moments. So it's going to take a little investigation. It's going
Hmm.
to take a little historical research. You can't escape that as a hoodoo. You can't escape that as any practitioner of ATR. You're going to have to learn about what your ancestors did and what they believe.
Right, right.
But once you do that, you are imbued with this knowing, Dee Dee, this knowing
I'm ready for it. I want you to tell me all the things.
is bigger than anything you could, it's bigger than any candle you could buy, any oil that you could buy, the
Oh,
understanding, the
I feel
historical.
called out. I feel personally attacked.
It's okay. It's okay because we're having this the knowing does so much for you in your grounding of yourself as your ancestor's child and not nobody else's hijack child.
Hmm. I want to talk about one of your favorite movies. I want to shift gears for a second.
One of my favorite movies?
Hmm.
What's that?
I'm going to make an assumption. So come on now.
What is it?
So I have been in your Facebook group. You know, your Facebook group is heavily guarded. You got some sense about you. I'll say that or whatever, because I'll be letting trolls in my shit and I'll be like, why am I so helter skelter? So you are heavily on top of that. But in your Facebook group, there is a photo. And for the longest time, it just called out to me so much. And my friend who's in the kitchen, her name is Ada, always be like, I know you're into your hoodoo. Um, she said it just like that. And she was like, you did say it just like that. And so she would be like, but it really surprises me that you've never seen Daughters of the Dust. And I'm like, Daizy, always talking about Daughters of the Dust. I said, I'm not gonna watch that movie. I'm not gonna do it. Daizy, I, in good faith, could not be sitting up here in your face right now. Wouldn't have done it. I would have been like, hey, Corona got me. I'm not feeling this interview no more. I'm serious. I'm telling you the bullshit that I would have pulled out my ass if I didn't go watch this movie. So I bought it. I contributed to Jeff Bezos' income right now. I bought it on Amazon. It seemed like it was the only place to buy it from. And it was $10. And I sat on my couch and cried the ugliest Gulf Coast of Mexico tears that I ever have in my life. And then I started to see how like the website and the group. Is your favorite movie Daughters of the Dust?
Daughters of the Dust is definitely top 5. For sure.
Can we talk about it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You smoking? Is that what's happening? Okay.
I had to get it out of my system to get it in my system.
Absolutely.
That's a word. Ooh.
You ain't high if you ain't coughing.
Come on.
Daughters of the Dust.
What for you, if you could make a synopsis of it, what for you did that movie mean for you in your journey? And I'm just giving a disclaimer. I would tell everyone who is watching this, everyone who will listen later, everyone who will replay this later, that whatever your thoughts are, set them aside. Because I had a hard time. I'm not gonna lie to you. I had a hard time with the movie. And then I did. And then because I was searching for something, that's why I couldn't enjoy it. I have to watch it 4 more times now because I was searching for something. I was like, what is this that Daizy finds so admirable about this film? Like 1992, who could do it? I was mad at you because I was like, damn, I really have to sit here and watch this film. And it's not just you. Like I said, my friend, she's also a practitioner. She feels like I'm just not an ancient person, which is valid. And it's because I hadn't watched the movie. So watching it, I was searching for what is it that Daizy likes about this movie so goddamn much. And when it hit for me, it was the scene where Eula lost her shit, seemingly. But it wasn't her losing her shit. Even her spouse was like, say what they're telling you to say. Like, you know what I'm saying? And that I had to pause it. It was just the ugliest cry I've ever cried at. Even when I got married the first time, I didn't cry like that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was the ugliest cry. And that marriage was a mistake and I didn't cry like that. So for you, I wanted to know, what is it about that movie that speaks to you? So is it Nana Pazant? Is it just like the history that comes from it? Like what is Daughters of the Dust for you?
Daughters of the Dust. The movie, I mean, number one, it reminds me of my ancestral aesthetic overall. Like if we're even taking out of the picture the writing and the storyline, the images that they share are things that I saw growing up, even as a Black person in the West Coast in California. You know, my grandmother is from Mississippi, and she brought with her all of her Mississippian ways. And we found a Mississippian, New Orleans, Louisiana, Tennessee ass church to go to, you know. So the dresses they was wearing on the beach as they was hand clapping are the dresses that I was expected to wear to church on
Right.
a Sunday morning. So on a very surface level, the aesthetic calls to me. It's familiar. It makes me feel comfortable. It reminds me of where I come from. The next part about the movie, I guess, is the level of complexity and the characters and the story that the characters tell, the storyline, it's about a family of African descendants in the Gullah Geechee coast who have been faced with particular traumas that push them into moving into, out west or onto the mainland, out from their kind of isolated, kind of essentially African colony into
Right.
the mainland where there are cities and bouginess and money and opportunities to integrate into whiteness a little bit more. So it's about
Right.
the struggle that is experienced within a Black family between those two things, and that the different characters that pop up in that story, the different characters that will pop up when that conflict arises, is what is so unique to me. You got Nana Pizan, who's like, why are y'all trying to move up north? What the hell is wrong with y'all? Y'all know them
Right.
motherfuckers crazy. Deal with that. You're gonna be turned out in a way that we ain't used to.
Right.
And then you have certain family members that are like, this is the way out. We can't live in this very secluded, our opportunities are inhibited here.
Right.
So that dichotomy and that struggle is enthralling to me. And I think Julie Dash is an incredible director. And we got things, there's a scene of that implies possession in that movie, and I felt like that shit was real. We have beautiful images. It just feels so familiar to me in those ways.
Thank you for sharing that, because now, like, I don't even have to do the searching, and I'm just glad it was like an affirmation. I feel like you just pulled a card from Daughters of the Dust. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. So, so I wanted to ask you, you said top five. What is the other four movies? Don't say Eve's Bayou.
You know, I got to stay with that, to be honest, because, anybody who knows me will tell you that I do not be watching TV and movies. Like, I'm really
Mm,
TV and movies now.
okay.
But uh I mean, Eve's Bayou is up there for certain reasons, and but it's not in the top five for certain reasons.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm gonna have to think about that and get back to you. I can't give you a list right now. It's like
Okay.
best
I'm all
rappers
for
of
it.
all
I
time.
see, like I had to take that one in stride because I just watched it this past weekend on Sunday actually, and Sunday is my day. I met a woman who is half what is she? Half Cameroonian and half German, and she was telling me that my name in her language means Sunday. And so I do all my spiritual shit on Sunday as
I
well.
love to hear it.
I'm telling you, I'm like, you can't tell me nothing.
I love to hear
So,
it. Yes, yes.
so something that stuck out to me in the movie is what Eula said when she was speaking, like her directive, and for those of y'all who need to go watch the movie, I won't tell you anything else, but what I'm about to say is that I think about like colorism, and I think about the yellow girl that Yellow Mary was with, and then I think about how they were interacting with Yellow Mary because of she looked markedly different from them, and it wasn't just her skin tone; it was like her facial features too. Um, and so just thinking of the legacy of trigger warning for folks who are tuning in, I will be talking about sexual assault for a moment. Thinking about that legacy of like how we were our own people and how it was um, violently taken away from us, and where the features Proud Mary came from are real, right? And like that history is real. And then they said in the movie, because Eula basically spilled everybody's tea. She was like, the reason why y'all are fighting with her, they were constantly picking at her, like, and I wanted her to write in her journal. I wanted her to write her little light skin tears in her journal, but they were constantly picking at her for seemingly no reason. And then Eula was the one who said it. She was like, you keep calling her a ruined woman because inherently well, she didn't say inherently, I just threw it in there for her. But your fear is that you will become a ruined woman. So you keep, you have to other her. because you want to separate yourself so that it never happens to you, that no one ever mounts you, you know what I'm saying? And no one ever touches you inappropriately. No one ever harms you. Like, you know, and there was a lot of, like, you know, um, but I think about that in the context of like, when you say community, it really is a big word for me, huge word. And when you talk about the work that you and so many others do, huge work, right? And I wonder what is, why do you think, because I want to ask the question succinctly, why do you think that we're still, even in this healing work we do, even in the root work, even in knowing the medicine, even in knowing the petitions and the rituals, why do you think that we step outside of that, which inherently means community, to commune with one another? Why do you think we step outside of that sometimes and like come for each other? You know, there's the issue of the not it's not an issue to me because I don't really parlay in that, but I see it on my timeline all the time. This person is a struggle witch. There is conflict in our community. There is, like, when you're successful and you're not the struggle witch, they still come for you and say that you charge too much or that you're a scammer or it's a scandal. I noticed I have stopped taking things very personally about my own community because I've noticed that it transcends multiple communities, the same kind of conversation. And I feel like, but I need you to throw them bones. I need you to do what you was gonna do. I need you to make me a doll real quick. I need an answer as to why we do this to one another, even when we've ascended, and even when we're on our high vibrations, and even when my moon is in Saturn, bitch. You understand what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying to you? It's not, to me, I wonder how will we get enough so that way we can actually move forward with one another together.
Whew, that's a big question. Um, One thing I've learned as someone being born on the butt crack between Libra and Scorpio, all about people and their intentions, is that you don't, people within a group may always and could always have discontention. People will disagree. People may not believe similar things or come to similar conclusions. So, as it pertains to community, I do respect that. I don't necessarily subscribe to an extremely idealistic view that we should all be on the same wavelength at all times. You know, that would be a beautiful thing, but it's just not what reality has shown me. So I'm a conjurer. I work with what reality shows me.
Right.
Um, but I do believe that there are ways to overcome conflict.
Okay.
And I
Because
think
we on a healing journey. I'm
we're,
here for it.
there are few people who have wronged me in my past that I wouldn't be able to have a conversation with. Few.
Few.
There
When you
are
say
some.
few, no, no,
There
no.
are
I
some.
want to clarify that you ain't never got to say names with me because that's not what I'm here for. But when you say few, do you mean 1, 2, or 10? And I'm only asking that. Okay, let me preface that, okay? I'm only asking that because I think that people forget who you are sometimes. And not just who you are, like name, nomenclature, but like the lineage. You know what I'm saying? And so sometimes I feel with you, with your following, that people don't realize, and I feel like this is mirror work, this is that shadow work. You understand what I'm saying? That people don't realize you connected to so many people, so your communities have expanded. So if you do have conflict with 10, it's proportionate to who you are. It's not that you went through and actually threw something at the bitch. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's who you are that has you with all these connections for people to misunderstand you or people to purposefully want to throw that shady burnt banana tree your way. I've
You
been
know,
working on my disses all day. You understand what I'm saying to you?
burn banana tree. I'm here for it.
No fruit. No fruits. Go ahead, baby.
But yeah, I just do understand that communities will find themselves in a situation of discord, and it's okay and it's natural and it's normal if all of the community members are aware that we have a protocol for dealing with
Mm,
discord. We have a protocol for dealing with discord. We don't, you know, a community is a group of people who have some sort of similar goal. So if you have some sort of similar goal, that goal is bigger than you and your petty dislike,
and
right?
someone type in petty dislike into my comments. Come on. I just
So
needed to know our highlighter was the same, sis. Okay, go ahead.
you feel me? So um, there are ways and means for salvaging relationships that do not require all out war, in my experience. Sometimes it requires all out war.
Sometimes it requires. I will cut a bitch. Sometimes it requires, but I want to hear about the ways it doesn't require war. That makes me happy.
If you're a black person, at least in my experience or my worldview, if you're a black person, there we unless you are significantly causing harm to the elders and the children in our community, we should be
Mm.
able to have a conversation before war is waged, right? Um, and I think that there is some confusion
Come
about.
on, you better talk about it on this broadcast today.
I think there's confusion about that. Um, you know, people will block you for disagreeing or providing alternative facts. You know what I'm saying? People will block you from association, which I'm not necessarily a person who's about a solidarity block. That's just
Because if that was the case, you could have blocked me about 60 times already, ma'am.
I mean, I operate on a little bit more of a subtle level than a lot of solidarity. I need more information. You know what I'm saying? But
That's good. You said you need more information. And that's kind of like been the thread with all the healers that have come this week. That it's like, can we question what we're hearing? It's not that we don't believe victims of abuse. And then the abuse be like, she wore the same fucking shoes as me on Thursday. That bitch. Like that's the level of abuse that niggas be talking about. And conflating social justice language. And they be healers. And I wrote a poem to this person I'm in love with this month. I hope it'll happen next month too. But
Pisces ass shit.
I'm just in love all the time. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? I just want to be loved without having to work for it.
I see you, hear you, and I love that.
So I wrote a line in the poem. I said, there's nothing more dangerous than a healer in need of healing. Because, those are the stories of diabolicalness that you hear about. A Medusa, the craft, a Feruza. I don't know. Like, you know what I'm saying? And that was the other question. Like, sometimes witches don't belong on TV. Like, they just doing the wrong things. They're telling us the wrong things, and people are following along because they're not studying. But I do want to hear more about not saying I'm all about positivity culture, because I am of the firm belief you could whip a bitch ass, and that is also protection. I ain't gotta kill you, but sometimes we just gonna have to blow off steam, especially if the conversation petty meets petty round two doesn't work. How, like, if we can mitigate, because I feel like we all getting older. I don't know how old you are. You probably have been here 3 times already, so I'm not even about to ask you your age. What I'm saying is I'll be 40 in like 4.5 years. You understand what I'm saying to you? The
Yeah.
more I think about it, to me, the mid 30s don't mean nothing to me. I'm like, I'm focused and I'm trying to figure out what I'm gonna do before I hit 40, And so I think about that and I'm like, what ways can I show up as my best self today or the working self? Because both are important. I want to be the working self. And so for you, you were like, oh, there's some ways, and you said there's protocols and that there's ways that we can engage. What are those ways, especially for Black witches?
Whew.
If I see another bitch in white, like being messy, I'm gonna be upset. Like, okay.
Ooh, she said a bitch in white being messy. Um, well, um, first of all, I mean, one of there have been people in my life who I have been able to have a drag out, bust down, fuck you conversation with, and we have still managed to find enough compassion and enough empathy in our hearts to be able to remain close to each other, to remain in community. The end all doesn't have to be the there doesn't always have to be an end all be all to everything. I think, it's easy on social media and things to block people, and you literally never have to see these people ever again. But when we're talking about real feet on the ground community, and we're talking about people who have a specific intention and a goal to remain in community, to build together, to work together, to create together, I think empathy and compassion is incredibly important. If you're, in a relationship, like, you shouldn't be trying to. We need to calm our fucking asses down. Let our egos resolve for a
Because I'd
minute.
be ready to put some hot foot powder on somebody's porch. You understand what I'm saying to you?
I'm not mad at you, and I understand.
Okay, thank you. I needed someone on my side.
No, I feel you. I promise I'm not trying to be love and light here, and I promise I am not trying to promote the idea of being in community with people who are abusive to you at all, at all. Um, I'm I'm just saying that I'm saying that you got to know what the difference between abuse and disagreement is. And you got to love yourself and your community enough to know that what this person's saying is not an attack on my being. You have to not attack. You have to be willing to not attack. And you have to be willing to um find the love in the situation, if in fact that person has the love for you. So yeah, there are a lot of from communal disagreements to communal wars within the ATR community as a whole.
Right.
But
it's not just woke book. It's witches.
I'm
white people. I don't really care about them, but it's everybody. It's gardeners. I've seen gardener beef. Like, I'm like, y'all niggas is just supposed to be planting seeds. The fuck you arguing about?
Look, white people love fighting with each other. They have been doing that since the beginning of time. We think that they're fighting us. They hate each other as much.
Don't let me see one more bitch bake bread on my timeline, I just got to get rid of these people. That's what it comes down to. I'm glad you answered the question, Daizy. And the reason why is because I have to be transparent. I broke my rule. I have a rule. I don't drag Black women. I might question their intentions, but I don't drag Black women. I don't do it publicly. I might kiki with my friends, but I don't do it publicly because I know the responsibility I have. But I broke my rule on Monday this week. And, I protected her because I wanted to do it in love, but I'm, just tired of people throwing shit at me. I mean, clearly none of it sticks. But I'm just tired of people throwing stuff at me. So I finally published something, and I felt so cheap afterwards. And I'm just saying it because that's how I felt. It felt good in the moment. It felt like, y'all see, this is shit. And it'd be compounded. It'd be like 10 of y'all doing the same inboxing and be in my face asking me to help you. And it felt good at the moment. And I was like, she wrong. But that's actually what I said in my house. You mind your business, what I do when I'm naked. But I did not feel good afterwards. And part of me wanted to delete it. And part of me leaves it because I'm like, when we talk about protection work, sometimes the protection work ain't pretty. And I've peed enough freezer bags to know sometimes protection work ain't pretty. but I want to find a balance. I'm pretty sure I'm not the only person watching who wants to find a balance between knowing when to knuck if you buck, and then also being like, you know what, sis, you got that. Okay.
You got
that. If that's your narrative, you got that.
Struggle with every day. Every day, it's a decision. Nuck if you buck or keep it peace. Well, I will say, one thing I will say is that the more aware of your destiny and your personal path you're on, the more aware that you are, the less those things tend to bother you. They may get to you for a day or two, but if you know what you're here to do, it doesn't matter if there is a Facebook Messenger conversation that gets on your nerves. Whatever. You can move on with your life with the full knowing that I'm still doing what I have to do. You know, this conversation doesn't stop. And mind you, I'm not trying to make it seem like, you know, personal like conflict, interpersonal conflict doesn't get to me. It absolutely can.
I was about to say, and I don't want you to get offended. I was like, I'm trying to be like you then, sis, but you just corrected me before I even said it. Look at you, spiritual, knowing, psychic ability.
I will sit my ass in a salt bath with a glass of wine and call the people I know I can vent to and release
Right.
this to and go on about my destiny.
Right.
You know? Now, one thing I will say, I'll add a qualifier here.
Yeah, please do.
If the person you're dealing with is coming for your well-being, coming for your children, coming for your elders, coming for your family, coming for your ancestors, coming for your livelihood, especially if they're an agent of white supremacy.
Or acting on behalf of the agency of white supremacy.
Acting on behalf of the agency of the illusion of white supremacy.
Come on!
You have all of the right. You have all of the right within your ancestral court, within your power of being, to shut them down indefinitely. I'll say that.
This is why I fuck with you. Because I'm like, I'm doing so bad. And then I was like, but I did the best I could. Because it was fucking with my livelihood. It was about some shit like, you can't work with Didi. And I'm like, that's unfortunate because clearly we work well together. Thank you for explaining that because it's the balance, right? And that's actually something my friend Tamla says a lot is like, don't bring it to me. I don't even want to hear. That's something I have to learn. Don't bring me the screenshots unless it's about my money. This was about my money, and I don't like that shit. So yes. Thank you for that. I wanted to ask you when we talk about balance, what I'm gonna just ask you because I feel like you're gonna push it back to me and say balance, but I need you to be stoic in your decision. Is it why is there an importance between protecting yourself and avenging yourself? What's the difference? Because I feel like it's not that I'm tired of it. It's just a lot of people on my timeline talking about I'm putting this person in a jar. I'm like, have you worked on you? And it's a question from myself. You know what I'm saying? So what is that?
You know, that's a very like interesting, multifaceted question. Because everybody comes here with their own head and their own way of handling things. And, you know, as we know within the hoodoo tradition, kind of as you alluded to earlier, but, you know,
I'm an illusion.
Yeah.
I love your smile. That's why I said it.
You're a sweetheart. You're a sweetheart. We don't necessarily subscribe to the Buddhist notion of karma.
Thank you for saying it. I just wanted to pull it out of you without asking you. Come on.
You know, as the karma, as we all know it as a dogma or a loose understanding of it as we know it, that's not what we do. Hoodoo is a tradition like many other African tradition that leaves space for reality. Sometimes you need to be able to curse somebody. Sometimes you need to be able to protect yourself. Now, what you're talking about is people's maturity levels. Spiritual maturity is a thing. Yes. And
Why? But explain why. Because sometimes if you come for people and you ain't get the green light from your ancestors, you messing with something that do not belong to you. And that's how people be getting fucked up. And again, I laugh at some of the bitches that keep coming for me when they do goofy, dusty shit. And I'm like,
look, Didi,
you didn't think before you came for me.
all of the time when you do some goofy shit without the approval of your ancestors,
Come on
it's
now.
gonna go wrong. It's gonna go wrong. You have all of these tools to be able to send a certain amount of electromagnetic frequency to somebody, right?
Okay, Jill Scott, come on.
Don't do me. To harm them. You have, as inherent as a human being, you have the capacity to do that to a certain extent. And if you do not, so you have all this power to do that, but you don't have the power to decide what's best for you to do. What is that? That doesn't make any sense within the hoodoo tradition, which is all about making some goddamn sense.
I like when it
So
makes sense.
yeah, it's good when it makes sense. Things open, doors open when the shit you do makes sense.
Ooh, baby.
But so a lot of people are operating with emotional and spiritual immaturity,
Okay.
and they're directing psychic attack at people that either don't deserve it, or who are in a position where that's not even going to bother them. That's not going to affect them because they're doing what they need to do in order to keep themselves solid and secure spiritually.
Right.
So, it's like a baby calling you a stupid head. You hear
You
the
ain't
baby.
gonna right. You ain't gonna beat the baby.
Exactly. You ain't gonna beat the baby, but you hear the baby and you're like, the baby is mad at me. You know, the elders, the ancestors might be like, that baby is mad at you. You see what that baby's talking about? Yeah, it's like, yeah. But am I gonna punch the baby in the face?
Right.
I might not have to. That baby can't reach me.
Right.
And if that baby gets bold,
That's a good visual. It's like you just like this is little. Literally. Like this is little and this is defenseless. This is indefensible. Like like and this has this it's above me now.
it's
Go ahead,
above
baby.
me now. It's above me now. And that's where you get a lot of people thinking that they've been psychically attacked and will accuse you of psychically attacking them because they have been sending you attacks.
Right. Is a
Your
guilty.
ancestors are dealing with it without your participation because they know that this baby is doing what she needs to do. So let me put these walls up. Let me put these reversals up, and bitches end up in car accidents, losing their houses, etc., because they don't understand that you don't need to do much to keep yourself on your path. So I'm just saying,
I don't know what to do right
I'm going to add a disclaimer and a caveat. Sometimes it's appropriate to make
now.
sure that somebody who's sending you something is taken care of.
Let me tell you something. I'm gonna tell you something one time because I feel it in my back to speak. I never feel things in my body unless it's meant to be said. There is a woman that I have loved very deeply. She is no longer in my company and I am no longer in hers. And I wish the best for her. I really do. If she ever needed me, I would show up and then go about my business, which is what I've done. But if this girl asks the internet one more time, am I talking about her? Would I be talking about real ass situations and be tagging the people? It's because it's a guilty conscience. I have to laugh at this point now because it's like you keep throwing so much. And I'm not talking about witchery. I'm just talking about your words. You just keep throwing so much that anything I would say. I tagged a white woman in my post and she felt like I was talking about her. And I would posit she need to examine why I address her as a white woman. Uh, I was talking about the white woman I tagged. So I just appreciate that like reframing because it's like I just want us. I'm like, nah, I'm no kumbaya shit, but I really want us to. I see the questions all the time, like, well, if hoodoo's so magical and voodoo's so important, and Santeria, and what's the one other one? It starts with an M. Nigga, I don't know. And it's an M religion, but it's like a form of Santeria and Lukumi. But I want to call it Mambo, but it's not that. But when you have all of these different ideations and people are like, well, this is what you should do, this is what you should do. You know, we talked about this. Is it more important for the deities or is it the ancestors? Like I think of like my tradition and I know to go to my egungun for everything first, you know, and then if I feel like I need to go to, you know, Loa, I need to seek divination. I need to find someone, if I could define that briefly, find someone who is skilled, who is knowledgeable, to go ahead and read for me what the spirits are saying, right? And so how is it like what is your personal belief? Is it the ancestors first or everybody? Or is it like just a case by case basis? Because I'm tired of also seeing the argument. Macumba.
Macumba.
Mayombe. I don't know who said, yeah, I don't know who said, yeah, Mayombe. So that I was like, I was in my mayonnaise. Yes,
No, you didn't.
I did, and I'm so sorry. I won't do it again.
We'll never hear that again.
Yes.
That's what we'll do. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Is it your ancestors first? Is it deities first? One thing I do like to remind people
Remind us.
is that it's you first. It's your head. Your head is a deity.
Your ori, right?
Your ori. No blessing can come by you, per your ancestors or the Orisha, if your ori does not accept it. It's you first. And now here we get into philosophical conversations about what is you, right? What makes you up? And if we're talking about African traditional religions, you are an amalgamation between of your ancestors and the unique manifestation of a spirit on this earth. So you're a mixture between, you know, something unique that has never before been done, right, and your ancestors' DNA, their pattern inside of you. So I really do like to make sure that people know your ancestors are not a stand-in for Jesus. You know, you're not the product of an original sin and you have to pine to your ancestors or deities about, you know, how to become be saved.
You better tell them stop burning ancestral money at that altar.
Stop burning ancestral money at that altar. Especially, it's a Chinese man on that.
It's made in China.
Your ancestors Chinese. If they're Chinese, then that would make a little bit more sense. But if they're not, what we doing? But anyway,
let me face my edge control. Go ahead.
You, first of all, it's you and what you are willing to accept and receive into your life as someone who is living as a manifestation of your ancestors in today's time. Then it's your ancestors, right?
Right.
I remember that conversation that came up. We're not our ancestors. That was a thing that people were saying for a while. We're not our ancestors. We'll beat your ass.
Right. Or yeah. Then the teacher that says I am my ancestors' wildest dreams, you know?
I've seen that. Yeah, okay. I've seen that. And if it's true, it's true. If it ain't, you're lying, you know? But you are literally in the most practical, non-woo-woo, earth-based understanding of yourself. You are your ancestors. You are their blood, their bones, their DNA. You literally cannot escape ancestor veneration if you are daring to live as a Black person in this lifetime. You cannot escape it. It's going to be what you is. You are your ancestors. You would not exist. You wouldn't have skin. You wouldn't have blood, plasma, bone, organs if it were not for that genetic material from your mother.
Right.
And your father, your parents. And they wouldn't exist were it not for the genetic material of their parents and so on. So you are literally physically your ancestors, right? So it would behoove us as practitioners of hoodoo and African traditional religion. Behoove. That's actually something my ancestor would say to me. My nana, my
Hi,
my
Nana.
grandfather's mother, Nana, my grandfather's mother, she said it would behoove you. And it would behoove us to make sure that we understand that we are our ancestors. You're always communicating with your ancestors. You always have been. You've always been them. You can't escape this. It is what it is. It's practical, it's real. Some of the traits, the insights, the emotional responses to things that you have, the talents that you have are not just only yours and yours alone.
Right.
So definitely ancestors are our first line of defense, protection, guidance outside of ourselves, you know, and it's important, especially as a practitioner of hoodoo, to really prioritize ancestor veneration. Next to the personal things, the work that we talk about, do the work. After you
Right.
do the work, you better be looking to your ancestors for the next steps.
I have to ask you this question. And this makes my heart sing so much that I'm able to sit with you and ask you this question. When you say that it's the ancestors as our first line of defense, how does one who doesn't know? Because I feel like I've been tagging you a lot and I'm like, let me go over here and donate to the Bleach Fund. I said, because I'm just doing the most over here because I don't want to answer incorrectly. And so we coming to the source. How is it that someone who is unaware, you know, I'm gonna go back before I ask the question. I watched Roots to Heaven on Vudu, and it was Jarman Hensu from, he's a famous actor.
That's a
He
good one.
And first of all, he looked good as shit. Number one. Number two, I felt it was extremely accurate to all the things that I've learned in your group and learned from like other readings that I've done. You should see my Audible. It's ridiculous because I drive to Boston listening to Working the Mojo. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm trying to do all the things.
Yes.
So when I think about there's a quote in the movie and he's talking about your ancestors. He's like, people like to think the ancestors is just this conversation about who's in your living room and then, who their parents were and who their parents were. You can even go back to your fourth. Black folks barely can make it to their fourth great grandparents because of slavery and how, we were so separated from one another. Yes. And what happens when you go back that generation? We not only from 18, 16, 14. What happens when it goes back to that generation? He said you have millions of ancestors behind you. Not just your mother's mother, your father, your aunts, your uncles, like your cousin. You have millions of them behind you. They all your personal cheerleader. That shit gave me goosebumps. For a person who's like, I miss my dad, or my mom has passed on, or my best friend, or this and that. What is like a easy can ease into it way to explain to them they not gone, babe.
Hmm. Well, a lot of that understanding, it it requires a certain willingness to think outside of white Western religion, white Western life. You can't escape it. You can't escape it. White Western life is going to tell you once you're dead and you don't come back. But what we know from our ancestors and from ancestor cultures that have existed for many, many years before white people even existed is that we acknowledge what is truly happening. And what is truly happening is that your ancestors are not gone. You can think about this in two ways. The people who've passed on before you are not gone. You can think about this in two ways, especially if they're blood relatives. They exist in your DNA.
Mm.
Your DNA. You literally have your mama's nose and your daddy's lips and your great grandma's behind. and they're with you in that very practical, physical, I can see this shit with my eyeballs way.
Right.
And allowing that to comfort you and to give you pleasure and to remind yourself that you're not far off from them is another way to kind of, is one way to kind of identify, like, they're not gone, not forever. They're here with me, and they'll be within my children. On another level, for folks who are wanting to connect spiritually in that way, um, there are ways and means to provide an open door for the
Come on,
ones that
open portal.
open the portal. There are ways and means to provide an open door for ones that you believe are dead to come and communicate with you and commune with you and be present with you. All you have to do is be willing to experience that.
And question your thought process around it. Because I hear, okay, before I even got involved in Ifa, right, or Hoodoo, I understood the stories of my grandmother. I have several grandmothers because my mother didn't just been in so many relationships, so God bless her soul. But I remember when my grandmother, my favorite one, passed away, and they used to be like, "Oh, Big Ma, I feel like she's still in the house." Like, so, like, sometimes I hear like ancestral veneration as like this weird thing. Oh, you want to talk to the dead, you want to do John Gray shit, or you want to do a Ouija board, and it's not that. It's the voice that you're like, that sounds like something my mama would have said to me, and she's passed 10 years now. Or it's the thought that pops into your head, because people think you're supposed to see a person, which you could, or people think you're supposed to hear a voice. But sometimes you saying to me just now in the genetic DNA, I think it's what my moms would have done. I think it is what my great great grandmother would have done, or the priestess that was in my tribe would have done. That was my great 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 15 20th removed, And so these knowledges sit with us. How is what like, ma'am?
Mhm. Yeah, that's when you get to that point. That's why I'm like, African traditional practice is the end all, is it's the answer, because you have to sit with that feeling and that awareness and that knowing and be like,
Is right.
that's all you can say is, whew.
I want to ask you, earlier I had messed up on the abbreviation for the C.C.H.T. What I call it. I'm not even gonna say what I called it because you already got mad at me about the other Mayombe. So what, ma'am, what is that, and how does that pair with your astrology, or is it two separate things?
Um, with my astrology,
Well,
well,
because I feel like you out here making this eighth house Earl that we about to give away, and I do feel like it was because of you that I got into astrology. And then I did that silly thing where I was like, let me go. Yeah, it was. Let me
wow.
go follow Chani Nicholas because she be out here doing charts, but you do charts. But then I found out she was white, and I got very disappointed. And she doesn't even pronounce her name Chani. I thought she was Spanish, and she's white, and it's Chani, like your knee is what she said in her book. And I was devastated. I was like, I want to. Can I send the book back to Audible? I did. And so you made me feel like when I say astrology, I mean like people think your horoscope is astrology, which is fine. But to me, astrology has gone deeper. And like I feel like I'm like, oh, okay, it was me being in Mercury out here. Like, yeah, I just feel like it
Where's your Mercury at, Didi?
in Pluto.
Your Mercury. Wait. What?
It's in
Your Mercury
Pluto.
is it? What sign is it in? Aries, Taurus,
I'm
Gemini.
about to tell you right now because CoStar never let me forget. I tell you that much.
Oh,
CoStar being your business. I don't
I've
know who
heard.
writes for CoStar.
I've heard that. You either have Mercury in Pisces, Aquarius,
I
or
apologize. You're absolutely right. My Scorpio is in Pluto.
yeah.
Um, it's my Mercury is in Aquarius, which is also fucked up, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because also my Venus is there, so I be in love as a Pisces, and I just be like, and you make me feel nervous about being here, and I have to go.
That's beautiful. I mean,
I hate
that
it here.
Mercury and Venus in Aquarius. I'm gonna ask you a question, but I'm an astro head. So Mercury and Venus in Aquarius would lend itself to this community oriented way that you are, this desire, this understanding that the words I use are most beneficial when they're shared within the community of like minds, and can get some thoughts popping off and can get some change happening through the words that I share and the way that I speak. And then Venus being there is like, my pleasure is in this community. Pleasure for me is in engaging with,
Married to these motherfuckers.
married to the community. So when we're talking about polyamory, when we're talking about experience of romance that is queer in nature, we're talking about Venus and Aquarius. So we'll leave that there. But
Please, I'm gonna send you some coins, and you tell me when 10 months from now when you're available, because you are in very high demand. When you have some time to do my chart, I would like that very much, ma'am.
say less. I got you. I got you.
This fucking Roxbury came out. So if somebody wants to set up their altar, I feel like you be getting the most simplest of questions, but it's like, it's like we have to be very careful when we say the simplest of questions, because then we tell people, oh, you think you're a witch because you read something on the internet, right? So when someone wants to set up their altar, like, I think about, a friend of mine. She in the kitchen. It's fine. So I think about my friend. She, had an altar in her home, and her home is not very altar friendly. And so the aunt side got upset. It's a little tiff taff, like but is it possible for people who live in apartment buildings or live with family who don't share their values and traditions? You don't have to, I have a huge altar. I have a love altar. I have my money and my root altar. You understand what I'm saying? We don't have to get into it. And also, you don't have to have this huge elaborate thing, because like, I feel like Wiccan ideologies teach us that we have to have these tools and these tricks and these trades or whatever, right? And you have to get the cauldron that is, you don't have to, but it's sometimes nice to, to like luxuriate in those things. But hoodoo, I want to talk about Odo. I want to talk about hoodoo, because even though I practice Ifa, I'm honoring my African ancestry, but I can also honor my African ancestry by talking about the things that were also um, curated here, because it was those African enslaved people who were like, damn, we ain't got no cola nuts. So we gonna do what we got to do. You know what I'm saying? And we didn't have what is the sorry, I don't want to be ignorant. So I'm gonna ask you, what is the long it's like when you do the reading with the sand and the cowrie shells. It's the long cord looking thing. It looks like a chain.
Oh, you're talking about, well, first of all, I'm not a practitioner of Ishe
Right.
or anything like that, but you're talking about the word, because it slipped your mind, it slipped my mind too. But you're talking about,
It's fine. Somebody gotta come in the comments.
that I know. Please bring the word to my mind right now.
The opele. Yes.
Opele.
Opele.
Yes.
I was like, we on a delay. Somebody said the pendulum. Ma'am, if you don't take your ass on, talking about a pendulum. Yes, the opele. So when that is different, yes. And also, I feel like I can't let you go without you telling me what the importance is of hoodoo to Black folks who have been brought here in chains.
Ooh, okay. So hoodoo is the African in American ancestral tradition of ritual healing, liberation, protection, and power that was created and maintained, and resistance, let's put it there, that was created and maintained by an amalgamation of African ethnic clans who were brought here doing what we call the Ma'afa, or that's a key Swahili term for the transatlantic slave trade. We actually have taken the responsibility of naming our own experience, and we call it the Ma'afa, which means the great tragedy.
Thank you for teaching me that.
For sure. It's kind of like Hotep 101.
I didn't attend the classes. I was just fucking the niggas, and I was just advancing to the next level. You understand what I'm saying?
Oh my goodness. So
I'm sorry.
No worries. We'll have a conversation after this, because I cannot blame you for that. So hoodoo is a practice that deals mainly with the ritual use of certain elements of nature, waters, plants and herbs, soils, minerals, crystals, oil, fire, air, even zoological materials, to either propitiate the help of spirits or to move the electromagnetic frequencies, to assist in bringing a desired outcome for the practitioner. Hoodoo prioritizes reverence of ancestors and the forces of nature, whether it be in their raw forms or their anthropomorphic forms. Hoodoo is a complete and total cosmology. Some people say it's a way of life, but really it's a religious tradition. And I know
Come on, you better say it for the ancestors.
Yeah, feel me. We have a lot of religious trauma, so we don't like to call things that are not Christianity or Abrahamic religions, but it is a religious tradition. It's a religious tradition in practice, period. It consists of its own initiation rites, regional deities, divinatory processes, spiritual medicines, favorite prayers, sacred locations on the Earth's biosphere. It has its own repertoire of song and dance, right? So there are hoodoo dances, there are deified ancestors, and much, much more. And hoodoo, like I said, is about resistance inherently. It is an Afro-Diasporic African religious tradition that is about resistance. The people who created this tradition, the people who birthed this tradition from their DNA, from their blood, from the bone, from the sweat, from their tears, from their amniotic fluid, the people who birthed this tradition were people who were forced to give up their bodies, their minds, their voices in the forest, laboring for somebody who don't give a shit about you. So inherently, there's an understanding that there is protection that needs to be had. Hoodoo is protective. Hoodoo is not just a simple, conglomeration of spells and rituals that these white folks would have you believe.
Right.
It doesn't improve white lives. Hoodoo does not improve white lives. Hoodoo is an African American ancestral resistance tradition. And I never saw myself as an activist. I had an understanding of what an activist
was. Hoodoo activism.
Big ups to Fire Angelo. Big ups to Fire Angelo.
She said she cleared her calendar for today. Ma'am, she loves you.
I love them. I ride for them. I appreciate them. They are I can't wait until I get my ass to Detroit and we can have some conversations, because, you know, I never saw myself as an activist until the framing of activism that I saw them doing, you know? And considering that hoodoo is a tradition about resistance, I receive that. You and, you know, Faya have definitely helped me to understand what is an activist, because I thought an activist was like a thing. I thought you had to have, you know, credentials. I thought you had to have 7 rallies, 6 protests, you know, 20,000 names on a petition in order to consider yourself an activist. And that's just my little hood country self thinking that. But, you know, I appreciate the way y'all share your activism, and you show that it has a lot of different manifestations. And hoodoo is an important part of Black in American activism. So thank you.
I want to ask you, I have to glaze over things like that because I'm just in a different space right now, but I appreciate you saying that because it means a lot to me. Um, I want to ask you a question about hoodoo and the doulas and midwives of today. And like, ma'am, I already knew what I came here to do. I don't know about you. Okay. Look,
There's a Negro spiritual, what they call a Negro spiritual, that says, I don't know what you come to do. I don't know what you come to do. There you go. Yeah. See, you jumped right into the spirit.
well, because Lord, oh my God. Oh my. And I like how hoodoo takes remnants of ourselves that was already stolen, even like in biblical verses like the Psalms, and sometimes Isaiah is used, right? And there's you know, I think about like the veneration that I do with my ancestors. I was telling Tam, I was like, what I do sometimes, even though I don't listen to gospel no more, because I grew up on it. And my fourth great granddaddy was like in NAACP Cincinnati. He was like the Lane Seminary's last fucking dean. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and so when you talk about blackness in Chicago, in Kentucky, like, like you know I think about just like what we had to go through, and it's like I honor them in the way that they know. And yes, I also want to do it a new way because I feel like me healing myself, because I have their DNA, me healing myself is healing them and the mother wounds that they have. That's why I be on your website buying calcite. Like, you, honey, calcite. I got 4 pieces on the altar. Like,
Look, shit. Though, when I, side note, those are prayed over like nobody's business. But we'll talk about that later.
so, you know, I just think about like how fucking resilient blackness is, that it came, was brought against its will, came and lived on through us. And the responsibility that we have to ensure that our children understand it. That and it's not just like the it's not just the t-shirts we wear. It's not just that my black is beautiful, but understanding the depth in which our black is beautiful.
Yeah.
And I just feel like the task that y'all have been laid at is ginormous. And I'm just so grateful that you came here to share with us your knowledge. And then you're gonna sit here and talk about me and fire. Like, first of all, I'm gonna tell you something and you take it how you will. And then, you know, I'm done. Let me tell you something. I did a reading with Fire. I'm not going to go into what was said in that reading because that's my personal business and people need to not mind it. What I will say to you is that knowing the gifts that you have been given, knowing the power that we each individually walk with. Our gifts just look different, right? We just got to spend the time identifying and knowing them. But obeying and paying attention and listening, like listening. Baba says it, listening the first time, and like not ignoring that that was the first time and being like, oh, I'm second guessing myself, knowing that you have everything you need inside you. You know how many fucking tarot card decks I have because they was made by black femmes and not men, but none of that matters. I'll pull a card today and my friend is sitting here crying. I don't even I can't believe I'm telling you, like, I do it because I'm called to do it. And even if that meant we were just having a regular fucking ass conversation. And it always surprises me when people come and do the same for me. And that is what Fire was talking about on Wednesday. It's so, I don't say it funny. I'm not saying it's coincidental. I'm saying the ancestors knew what they was doing when they was like, Daizy, you better answer that bitch's email. Because Fire just said to me on Wednesday, you know better.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It don't matter how many bones you throw. It don't matter the gree. It don't matter the fucking mojo bag. None of that shit matters. If you paying attention to the things you're supposed to pay attention to.
And I think that's what the community talks about when we talk about what the difference between a struggle witch and somebody who ain't.
I wanted to come back to this. Can I have more wine, please?
I think that, I mean, for whatever reason, we're quick to pick up terms to describe an archetype of a person, which is what we have done historically throughout the history of all humanity. We pick
Can you say archetype? Because I actually got wet just now. That just happened.
Archetype.
Oh, I just say sapiosexual. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. I'll be quiet.
But the struggle witch, if you will, is an individual who who refuses to acknowledge.
Did you make a definition?
I'm coming up with it right now.
I'm clarifying.
A struggle witch is not somebody who doesn't know better. A struggle witch is not somebody who doesn't know. A struggle witch is not a beginner practitioner of any African spiritual tradition. A struggle witch is not somebody who just makes mistakes that they're willing to deal with as they come up later in life. A struggle witch is somebody who knows just enough to be dangerous to themselves and others, and is also not willing to address their personal, emotional, sociological, societological issues. Somebody who's not willing to do the work for themselves, who's rushing to do the work for other people who don't know how that works, and finds themselves in traumatic situations or bringing traumatic situations to other people.
Y'all better get Urban Dictionary on the line quick. Ma'am, so I guess my heart sang because I wanted you to talk about it. I'm doing the love and hip hop basketball. Like, I wanted you to talk about it. And this is my fear. And I think it goes back to you. The fear, ma'am, you didn't ask me for this. It goes back to Eula. The fear is that we're all dealing with our unaddressed issues.
Okay.
That each of us has been in a trajectory for the right path that we should be on, in connection with our ancestors, in connection with our nature, in connection with our history. Like, that's the trilogy. Okay. And I just feel like at the end of the day, when we do that to each other, yes, that may be the definition. But while we harp on lesser level, like people who are just in their own and people who are working on it, and sometimes people could be a witch for 10 years and just never have worked on it, but just been witch adjacent, bleach adjacent, like, you know what I'm saying? Because that was me for a very long time. I
Okay.
was introduced to Ifa in 2011 through my landlord at the time, and now he's my babalao. Okay, so I'll just leave it there. Thank you, because I needed this, because this was a word. I appreciate you and I love you. What I mean to say is that we apply it in all instances, and where we think somebody not getting their money, or somebody, oh, how you had to have a GoFundMe, or how you had to do this, and how you, because at the end of the day, we're trying to separate. We're trying to say that's not me. That's not me. But every person I know who has utilized the term struggle witch has struggled in their witchery, in their
Mm.
journey, and their, you know, and so that's all I'm saying, is that it may not be my place to ever have that conversation, because there are eons upon eons upon eons and ancestors that come before a lot of people that have knowledge. But part of our activism is being like, how can we challenge that which with we know, that which with bitch, that which what we know, how can we challenge that with what was also wrong with what we know, even when it comes from our own ancestors? Because that is the question. Is somebody I had strife with in my family bloodline, is that a good ancestor, or is that a not good ancestor? Sometimes I like to call on my Aunt Dolores, and I know my family gonna hate me for saying it. She long gone. But Auntie Dolores looked like she been in some shit. You understand what I'm saying? And so I talk to her often.
Yeah.
And so I feel like I went off on a tangent, but it was important for me to say all that. But
Wow.
I just want us to be cognizant, because we just use it's not just the struggle witch conflict, it's all the conflicts. Oh, you know that they charge $350 for this, $150 for that, like, you know what I'm saying? It's just everybody is like levels to the struggle, like, you know what I'm saying? They say you struggling if you asking to get paid for your labor. They say you struggling if you was like, you know what, I want to expand the amount of labor I do, and I want to be educated. Like, they say you struggling for everything, and I'm like, what is this community of healers that we magically learned to heal on our own, without elders, without people, without, you know, I don't know who I am right now.
I feel you. And you know what? I always leave it up to a good Pisces to make sure that we understand that nobody is on any kind of ladder that is higher than another individual. We're all the same, and I absolutely we're all going through concurrent circles of growth with each other, and I appreciate that.
You smell like baby powder. I know it.
Me?
Shea butter and baby powder. I already feel it.
Right now,
Talking to me like that, I know that's how you smell.
Right now, I smell like gin a little bit. But what I will say is I feel you on that, and I appreciate that politic. Like, you know, what is the purpose of creating this term and using it to separate ourselves from individuals who are learning and growing?
Be divisive if it's harmful. I'm all for that. Be divisive if it's harmful.
Right.
But
So
a lot of times, it's not.
Right. So I'll go ahead and qualify that.
I like your qualifiers. Tell me.
I love qualifying shit. I have too much
to
not be qualifying shit. But we'll say that a struggle witch is somebody who is willing to harm you.
Come on.
To reap the benefits of the illusion of white supremacy. We'll say that.
Now, can y'all call Wikipedia and Urban Dictionary? Bloop. Thank you. And they're going to put that on replay. That's, if I had one job in life, it was to help us refine that conversation, because it irks my soul.
I'm here with you. I feel it. And it can become an antagonistic. Never in my life have I seen so much dragging culture. You know, I'm not a woke book person. I don't know anything about that, but I do.
Everybody on Woke Book follow you. I feel it.
I hi woke
They're all
book,
my friends. They're not my friends.
but I mean, dragging someone for not knowing better and dragging someone for being willingly harmful are two different things.
Right.
Two different things. Um, uh, what was the question, Dee?
I just want to do better. That was all the question.
Yeah,
That's all.
I feel you. I want to do better with you, and we're going to do better together.
Thank you.
Okay.
Something I want to ask you about because I want to be nosy. You say you don't talk about yourself, and so I want to be super nosy. Don't worry, calm down. I'm not gonna ask you about your love life. That's my business. So, what I want to ask you is, what do you see? Like, I know that there's a lot of benefits to a lot of the things you do, and I think the C.C.H.T is a certified congressional hypnotherapist.
Clinical.
I was close.
Congressional. I'm here for it though. Okay.
Thank you. And thank you. And so I know that like you do that, and I want to know, is the reason why you do that is to draw people out of themselves so that way they can get in front of themselves?
Hypnotherapy. Hypnotherapy is the practice of inducing trance so that you can go deeper into yourself. So it's less about drawing you out of yourself. That's kind of antithetical to the practice.
Tell me.
It's more about drawing yourself into yourself, giving you space, guidance, and safety to investigate the contents of your subconscious mind. And what we know about the subconscious mind is that the subconscious mind is like 90% of our mental experience, right? So you can say, it's the reason why people say, you know, oh my God, I want to eat healthy and end up not doing that shit, is because the subconscious has been trained to not do that. The conscious.
Listen, I like my macaroni and cheese, and y'all need to just mind y'all business.
You know, ain't nobody said that ain't healthy in the first place. But your subconscious runs quite a bit of your conscious processing and your body's processing. So hypnotherapy is about going into the subconscious mind, repatterning, reprogramming, so that what you do on a conscious level is more in alignment with what you need and what you want. So it's about inducing trance. And if we know anything about trance, is that every African spiritual tradition has some kind of practice or method for inducing trance. Hypnotherapy, although British white men for some reason are the predominant practitioners in the world, hypnotherapy existed in the halls of Egypt, Kemet, since before white people existed. Going into your dream state, your subconscious mind, for answers, to ask questions, to remove things that are painful to you and to add things that are helpful to you, has existed for a long ass time.
That's why I said that Christians stole it from Africans, but go ahead. Come on, Holy Ghost.
It is the most effective way of creating change in the mind of you. I can't really, the amount of passion I have, the amount of growth that I've had has come from hypnotherapy. You know, the amount of passion I have about the subject matter is incredible because it is so important.
I appreciate you saying that so much. I'm not gonna hold you. I didn't even realize what time it was, so I just looked down just now because I was sitting here being like petty in the comments because I had to be. And then also I'm like focusing on you. I'm producing the show. So much is going on. Simone Samba is here. I'm excited. I don't know what to do.
Hey,
I just want to say thank you so much. There are so many people just like in the comments, and I hope that if you have space and time, relax tonight or whatever, but just people are looking for the answers. And I just so glad you was here to say it starts with you. You made my heart like warm, like you know that commercial for Trojan ends, and like they were just like, oh, his and her lubricant or whatever. Like that's what my heart feel like right now. It was cold and it's warm. So what I want what I want to do is all of my guests that come on the show, I ask a two-pronged question before they go because I like complex questions because I'm a complex bitch, okay? And the question is there anything, because this is your show, like people know, like there's only 9 likes on that pinned comment about the Bleach Fund. Y'all niggas better drop $2, $3, $5. If you white and you're a person of privilege, and thank God you ain't comment because I would have thrown them both. I already know white people didn't comment on this. But if you white and you watching from the sidelines, throw some money in that praise bucket. And I'm
Somebody has,
telling you,
somebody has, since our conversation has started.
well, that's all I know. That's what I do.
Thank you,
And so
Tiara.
what I wanted to say is there anything, because this is your platform, um, and I want to give deference to that for any guest that comes on the show. This is your time, this is your space. So is there anything that I did not ask you that, one, you were surprised I did not ask you, or two, you was like, oh, hold up, let me talk about this thing that I got going on, and I just glazed over it because sometimes I'll be drinking and smoking, or and who is someone that you would like to see on the show?
Ooh. Hmm.
It's me. I smell like baby powder.
It's been you the whole time. It's been you the whole time. Um, so I do want to talk about the Bleach Fund just because
I
it
want
is.
you to talk about it.
Did
I
talk
want you
about.
to take my time, please. Oh my God, I have a little oil up here. Okay.
You ain't got a single lick of foundation on. You good. Um, the Bleach Fund is a private contribution fund that I created with my own monies to help Black women, Black femme, more specifically, head of households who are practitioners of African traditional religion to afford the basic necessities of life: transportation, food, clothing, water, etc. The things that you need to thrive. I've been in situations in my life where I was like, I really, really wish somebody could just throw me a $60 right now to help me out. Throw me $100 so I can continue living in this
Right.
free environment that I'm living in. Somebody throw me a car real quick. I'm gonna need it. So I created a fund to help Black folks, Black families, to be able to have that happen for them with no questions asked. And the fund is recipients of the fund are divine through divination, so the ancestors decide who receives the money. And we are always, always, always in need of assistance. It's a hard month when 20 inquiries come in, and either a pot has to be split between the 20 or it can only
Right.
be a couple. So we do really, really ask people to contribute. One of the benefits of contributing, we have a tier, I guess you could call it.
Are you going to talk about the Sankofa reading list?
Talk about the Sankofa list. So,
Shoot.
so in order to provide incentive and benefit in the
Because you
spirit,
gotta give niggas something. Even the white people, they want something. I'm like, you can't just be a good person. No, niggas want something.
in the
But
spirit,
I've benefited from your reading list. I will say that.
I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that. In the spirit of reciprocity, me and a an amazing spirit known as Hess Love have
Yes.
worked together to compile a list of books that are about African spiritual traditions written by Black people.
Mm,
And this is a compilation of titles that there are books that you can purchase on Amazon or wherever. We're not talking, we fuck Jeff Bezos or whatever the fuck his name is. But there's a compilation of titles that are presented in this Sankofa list that help you to make sure that if you're reading books about African spiritual tradition, you're reading from Black authors. Every author in that book is a Black author. We have categories from hoodoo to New Orleans or Louisiana voodoo
And you
to
don't want no buzzards in there. No luckymojo.coms.
no, none of that. You know, if
It's
you
so
want to
bad.
learn about African traditional religions in a literary way from African practitioners, the Sankofa list has over 80 titles for you to browse through and purchase yourself. 100% of the proceeds go to the Bleach Fund, and we're always dreaming up new incentives and new gifts to give to contributors to the Bleach Fund. So if you're curious, you can go to theafromystic.com.
Oh no, these niggas is curious. I'm also gonna put your website and they're very curious. I just want to let you know. And I think about, yes, you had said something and I want to affirm for you. Oh, that's what they told me to tell you. Okay. So I want to say something. And we don't ever have to talk about this again. You don't even have to affirm it. I just want to let you know that the story that they are telling you is the right one. You are going to be franchise. I feel that in my toe when I'm telling you this. You are going to be connected to so many people and teach so many people that, do you remember because this is the only thing I'm hearing, the movie, not the movie, I don't know what it was. It was like a not a superlative. Bitch, I'm trying to figure out the word right now. The series about the woman who invented Madam C.J. Walker. I was like, the woman who invented the perm? Madam C.J. I'm not good anymore. So Madam C.J. Walker, right? And how like she went from bare bones, like working for someone else. She was a struggle witch, like, working for someone else, but she was working on it. You understand? It's not that she didn't know better, but she knew that she deserved better. Like, and I think that whatever, I don't know what your heart's desire is. I don't know. And you don't have, that's to say, you don't have to affirm it for me. But I'm getting something that's telling me that you're going to get that. And it's going to actually be careful. I hope that you ask specifically what it was for, because it's going to come in multiple stages. And to me, multiple stages read as franchise. So I will leave that there. If I'm wrong in 2 years, you could be like, cancel that bitch Didi Delgado. She had her top knot too tight and she had no idea. But I be feeling things sometimes, and so I will say that to you. Whatever you had in your heart, that's what it is. So who you want to see on the show?
I received it. Thank you. Who do I want to see on the motherfucking show?
I didn't wear this cat suit for nothing.
Ooh, you wore it for me?
Yes.
For me?
Yeah.
Who? Okay. I want to see a couple people on the show.
Tell me all of them. I'll ask them. Whether or not they like me today, who knows? But I will ask them.
Ooh, okay. Hopefully, ain't nobody on your block list, because there ain't nothing when you go to find somebody on Facebook.
578 hours of the block list.
I want to see. I want to see Riche. Riche comes up in.
She came on the show.
Wait, what?
You want her in a different? Listen, I've been episode 31. Boo, what you think? I ain't been busy. Riche was on the show for a show called Parenting While Black and Social Distancing.
Oh yeah. So I gotta do my Googles. My bad. Okay, so Riche is already on the show.
Okay. We on the Apple Podcast. We on the Spotify. Riche is up there.
Did you get Ialosha Osunyemi Akalatunde?
No, you did tell me, but I don't think that person was available for my show.
Okay. I would suggest Funlayo.
Okay.
Ia Funlayo Wood Menzies.
Can someone tag that person if they follow them, please, so that I can follow up, please?
She can be found at asheire.com. She's a scholar, a priestess of Ifa, as well as
Come on now. So you could be both, right? You could be more than one. You can practice more than one religion. Is that too much?
No, you can definitely practice more than one tradition. Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
We can go back to who you want to see a show.
We're multiple African ethnic groups, so it would be important for us to practice multiple traditions in some cases to appease the whole of our ancestors. But I just appreciate the work that she's doing within the scholarly community. You know, this woman is has her doctorate, and that wouldn't mean anything if it wasn't equally as matched in her willingness to bring community together.
Mm,
And
you better tell them.
you
Them
know,
educational gang signs don't mean much unless you put it on for your community, okay?
you feel me? If your feet ain't on the ground, I don't want to hear about your hoodoo, voodoo, ishe, none of that. Don't give me none of that. Don't want to hear it. But I can confirm. I'm speaking about people whose work I can
Okay.
confirm. And she is, and Black women in particular, because we need platforms. She is doing the work, and I would suggest reaching out. I'll tag you out,
Thank you. Thank you.
introduction or whatever.
Thank you. Think big energy. Think energy that nobody ever even seen before and needs to like, I got a little tiny baby. Is she growing? She growing, but I got enough. And that's all I need, right? And so like even if it's small energy, but that needs to be brought out. Like people need to see that sazon. Like, like tell me.
I mean, that's who I got. That's who I
Okay.
got for you.
All right. You said it here on the full set. That's who you got.
That's who I got. If anybody comes up, I will be more than willing to.
You be like, and you know what? I got a list now of 20 people who
Black women.
steadfast in they practice. Like, we just all want to be, we say we want to be good people, but I really challenge us to actually do good, do less harm. Like, not to be cliche about doing less harm. Like, examine, let me tell you something. I spent the worst time from August until yesterday upset over some silly shit because I'm petty to a core. It is my Aries rising. I will
Ooh.
fuck some shit up. And my niece and I stopped talking because she burned a hole in my couch. But that was it. That was it. Like no harm was caused. No, it was a misunderstanding. You know what I'm saying? Like she felt the way she felt about it. I felt the way I felt about it. Nobody better speak on my niece. And I spent time, there was like so much wasted time that I lent to that situation of being convicted. I was convicted. I saw my baby yesterday, 21 years old, and I'm missing her life because I was annoyed. Nobody died. Nobody was caused harm other than me having to make a few phone calls and get a new couch
Yeah.
because I'm not going to live with no fucking hole in my couch. But it's just she the one that did my top knot. She had auntie looking out here right. Like you understand what I'm saying? Like, and I just want us to be cognizant that something you said in the middle of this broadcast is sitting with me. You made the definition that if they do harm is one thing, but your hurt and your disagreement is not the harm. It's just an annoyance. Like if I look back on that shit, my heart breaks, and I'm so glad she accepted my friend request because that's some real shit I missed out on. Now, like September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April. We in the end of May, almost 10 months of that baby life and mine over a couch. It's not that serious. It didn't even cost me as much as I thought to replace it. And so this is the work also, right? Like it can't just be like, oh, I got a honey jar, so good things come to me, or I'm gonna make this petition. It's gonna happen. You also have to do the work.
Yep.
You know how many fucking crystals I fucking got in here? You also, I stood up so y'all can see my suit, but y'all also gotta do the work. It don't matter.
Yes.
But you also got to do the work. And the work is the stuff, Hess says this all the time. You can't just be out here like, let me get a job in IT for $57,000 a year without also going to the school and also networking and that's not about respectability politics. I want to be very clear about that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. It's about setting yourself up on each trajectory, the physical plane that we on, the
Mm-hmm.
astral plane that we on, the ancestral plane we on, right? And so I can't thank you enough. You's a bad bitch. I just want to let you know. You knew before you came on here. You came here, you was like, do you see my highlighter and my stone cold lipstick? I didn't come here to play with you hoes. That's what you came here and you said, is you ain't come here to play with us hoes. But we learned a lot at the playground, man. I just want to let you know.
Mm-hmm. I appreciate you for having this platform, for being willing to do what you do, for inviting the people that you feel connected to come on. I'm excited about learning more, and I give thanks that your ancestors have given you this particular trajectory. And I can't wait to see it expand and what you do with it on a grander scale.
Ashe.
Ashe.
I love you. This has been a full set on the full set. And I appreciate you so much. I can't wait till we get our nails back. I appreciate you so much. I love you and I'm proud of you and I'm rooting for you. And I
Thank
hope that you have an amazing evening.
Thank you. You too. Love you too. Rooting for you. May your ancestors bless you greatly.
Hey, Ashe! Y'all have a great day and thank you again for visiting us. I hope y'all have a good night. This has been Didi Delgado with Daizy October Latifah.